Thank you so much. Thank you. So hello everyone, hello everyone. First of all, watermelons are important. Right? We don't joke about watermelons. There are literally a lot of different ways to choose the right watermelon. I will spend probably 20 minutes in a store knocking, looking at the yellow spots, looking at the texture. We can have a conversation about that later. But I take watermelon seriously. So just to make sure that you actually can see everything, I'm just going to move it a little. And today, you are here after party yesterday for probably the driest talk of the entire conference. The most boring talk of it all. And to make it a bit more sweet, I brought chocolate. And I'm not joking with chocolate either, by the way. Anybody wants a piece of chocolate? All right. Oh, wow, sorry for the camera guy. Okay. Anybody there, maybe? In the back. I will throw. Okay, well, it didn't go as expected. Well, I should be training a bit more. Maybe just one more, and then we'll start. Anyone? All right, so that should be doable. Well, this was a person behind you. If you could pass over, that would be great. All right, so I come to you in peace, talking about a relatively boring topic, I think, to many of us. The issue is, and this has kind of been my journey for the last, I guess, 8, 10 years or so, I've been spending quite a bit of time in enterprise world and corporate world, working with the European Parliament, working with Half Alexa, working with very different companies, organizations. And every now and again, I walk in an organization like that, and I feel like the very first frustration that I experience is that there is no confidence in me or in my abilities. There is no trust. I always have to defend whatever it is I'm going to do. I always have to explain how I'm going to do it. And I always have to visualize the impact of what I'm going to try to do. And that brought me to this notion of how can I actually explain and visualize at scale in small and large organizations the impact of that incredible UX work that we're doing and producing. And I want to go to touch on that today, maybe share a couple of practical insights that will help you as well. And I want to look at it through different perspectives, right? From the perspective of design impact, metrics, KPIs, KPI trees, and also how to measure and report success. I think that very often we don't have this conversation, but they're very, very important to have. And you will see in a moment why it kind of all builds up together to really create something that you can actually use in your work to visualize that impact that you're producing. But what is that impact? Like, where do we make an impact? Like, it seems like you're drawing pixels over here, maybe you're changing filters and search and whatnot. How can it actually show a business value? Well, most of us, when you spend a bit of time in UX, will find that much of the UX is seen and broken down across these 5 different dimensions. I'm sure most of you have seen it before, the 5 layers of user experience as claimed by and established by J.C. James Garrett back in 2006. And all of this is UX, ranging from surface, the visual layer, the UI stuff, maybe information architecture over here, the scope, and then the strategy, the business strategy and user needs. Now, when you walk in a company or in a project, and I think at least it's been like this for me, there is a very strong assumption that I should be able to navigate between all of these layers. It's not just UI anymore, because we're all product designers, right? Product designers are not just UI people. We understand the business. We care about the business and the strategy and everything that goes with it. But for me, that's really difficult because, again, I'm not an expert in business strategy. I don't have any business background at all. So kind of navigating there is hard. On the other hand, information architecture on its own is a very deep field. Like, I'm not a great UX researcher, but I know many people who are. But in many ways, I'm expected to do everything, kind of to make an impact in an organization for UX. Now, this is my way of kind of translating it into something that I can work with. Now, in general, we have the reality. A very messy, complex, contradictory, evolving reality. That reality is difficult to understand. Even if we try to understand it, very often we misunderstand it. Maybe we don't understand it fully. And as designers, what we try to do is to translate or map this messy reality into something that we can deal with in a problem space over here. And this is where we need to explore the user needs, the domain, observe the behavior and stuff like that. Now, this is probably the most challenging part for me. So when I'm being dropped in something like an insurance project or healthcare, I spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to understand that domain. Not even the domain, it's like the vocabulary. The language that they're using is so different from the language that I'm used to. So I spend a ridiculous amount of time over here trying to just even understand what the hell they're talking about most of the time. And then, as we explore this space, of course, we go ahead and design the solution space for it. But if the mapping over here is not right, is not accurate, is biased, or anything like that, then these solutions over here will not make much sense, right? They will not be impactful at all. So for me to make an impact as a designer, I need to make sure that this translation over here and also over here is reasonable, right, and also reliable. Now that all sounds very abstract. What am I talking about here, right? But we kind of need to keep that in mind. This translation is very important. I think that one thing I want you to take away from this, throughout this session, you will see there is a lot of translation happening. If you want to indicate your impact to business, then you need to translate business goals to design initiatives somehow. You need to connect design ideas, design goals with business goals as well. That's always an act of translation. So let's see what that actually means. Now, if you look at how organizations are organized, very often we see this, right? Beautiful. Neatly structured org charts, everything is just right. And in fact, the first thing that I'm going to ask when I'm working on any project is, hey, give me an org chart. Any fans of org charts? Okay, one person. Oh, we need to make a club or something. This is unbelievable, right? Org charts are, boring. So why would I ask for it first? Well, I need to understand where I am. So if I'm working over here, right? And I just want to be very honest here. For a long period of time, I believe that if I do good design work, people will notice. Right? It will just spread in the entire organization like a wildfire because everybody wants better design, right? Everybody wants better UX, right? Well, this never happened to me at all, not even once. In fact, you always have to fight for it. You always have to be strategic and political about it. So if I am here and I'm reporting to this person over there, but that person couldn't care less about design, no chance. You will be blocked by default. And you can see why. Because when you look at these people here, what I see are people who have dogs, children, mortgages, insurances, whatever, anything, debt and anything. They don't really care as much about design as we do. And they don't have to, of course. But by default, the behavior will be block. Because we are often being seen as disruptors, not helpers. When I come in, there is no confidence in me helping people actually do what they want to do. So when you're here and you're blocked over here, no chance. But if you start looking around and see that maybe there is this person and that person, and these people actually believe in UX. They actually want design to kind of move forward in the entire organization. You will need their support to carry your design in action. This is how impact happens. You need to build this sort of like a design guild or something similar to make this happen. Does that make sense? It's very political, but in many ways, this is kind of what we have to do, right? So these people would really love to support you if they know that you existed. But if you don't speak to them, don't announce your design intent, they will never have heard of you, right? It's so funny that we often have these beautiful org charts, right? But the reality is, of course, this. This is how most organizations, neatly organized, work. Chaos. Chaotic chaos, organized chaos. Timely chaos, managed chaos, unmanaged chaos, disastrous chaos. But there is chaos all the time. Priorities change, reorganizational efforts and things like that happen. People move from one team to another. All of a sudden, we need to cut corners. There is a time pressure and things like that. Everything changes, and you have to navigate it in one or the other way. So what do we do with it? Well, to navigate it comfortably, we still need to have this sort of like a North Star in front of us. What do we do as designers to improve the business kind of goals, to drive business goals? Well, there are typically 5 things that every business cares about, or organization, even if it's non-profit. They care about increasing revenue, they care about decreasing costs, they care about increasing new business, existing business, and also shareholder value. Now, it seems very daunting again. If you're working on something like filters, how can you connect it with increased shareholder value? That's very difficult to do. But if you do good design work, good accessibility work, good UX work, you can always make a strong case and connect your design work with decreased costs and potentially also increased revenue because you're increasing conversion. right? This is something that I always try to do first. Try to map my design work as enabler of these strategic priorities. Make sense? It's not dramatically, well, revolutionary, but it's important. And this requires a reality check. There was this wonderful article by Paul Adams, who is an officer, chief product officer at Intercom. And he wrote about the end of navel gazing. And what he was writing a couple of years ago now is this notion of those charts appearing all over. You go on LinkedIn, you look at this, you see this. And of course, sure, UX is the heart of everything, right? I mean, look at this. What are they without us? We are literally the center of the universe. We are that magical glue that connects the technology, the business, the design. Without us, there is nothing, right? Which, of course, couldn't be further from the truth. Because when you look at how most organizations work, it's very simple. There is leadership. Strong leadership, weak leadership. Flat leadership, hierarchical leadership. But there is always leadership. And there are many satellites circling around leadership. And those satellites report to leadership. And those satellites often have different significance for the business. If you think about the ratio of designers and developers in your organization, it clearly tells you what the priorities are. And I'm not saying that you should have always one-to-one, like 300 designers, 300 developers. That's not going to work. But there is a difference between 1 designer and 300 developers, 10 designers and 300 developers, and 20 designers and 300 developers. So this very clearly defines what your position in the organization is. But there's one thing that's really important. And that part is, when you look at sales and marketing, they're very, very good at having a direct connection to the leadership. Why? Because they're very good at explaining what the hell they're doing. They're very, very good at visualizing that impact that they are producing. Leadership knows every single day something that sales and marketing have done. Right? And most of these different units and departments, right, they all have their own defined KPIs, key performance indicators. Sales, very clearly defined KPIs. Marketing, clearly defined KPIs. Finance, HR, clearly defined KPIs. Oh, that's us. Research design. Do we have design KPIs that we report to leadership every couple of months? Not really. I haven't seen it anywhere at all. So when I got in these companies, I started thinking, can we do this? Can we set it up? Maybe that would be reasonable. And so this is exactly what I kind of want to share with you today, kind of this path to actually get there, to maybe be on the same level like the other departments are. By the way, does anybody have a best friend in sales? Okay, 2 people. Well, because we have these really wrong assumptions, right? Oh, before you end up maybe moving here and having a position over here, think, well, marketing, horrible people, right? Horrible, horrible people. They take what we create with so much love and passion and desire, right? And they just market it. Oh, they just announce it, fluffy words around it, and then they sell it. Oof, horrible, horrible. Oh, sales is even worse, right? They take what we created through so much time and passion and iterations and all of that, and they just sell it. If we could, we would just give it away for free to everyone because we love it so much. But they just sell it, right? I mean, of course, they're important. No organization can exist without them. But there has never been more overlap between the sales priorities and design priorities. It's been surprising for me over the last couple of months to see that a lot of UX researchers, any researchers in the room, by the way? My kind of people, we will talk later, right? So sometimes you see that UX researchers sit not within the UX teams, they sit within customer success teams. For a very simple reason. Because right now, most of the applications will be subscription-driven, right? And that means that you need to maintain a relationship with the customer. If you want to maintain a relationship, you need to know what that customer is doing, what their preferences are, priorities, and so on. You need to keep them happy. And that requires research, right? So researchers often sitting with the customer success team. The best thing you can do is to befriend your sales team because they speak to customers all the time. And very often they will have a lot of useful insights for you to generate from, right? Okay, I'm getting too derailed. And then, of course, you have support, Support. And then you have finance, well, they pay my expenses, and salary, they're good people, as long as they pay on time. And then you have HR, people problems, I hope we never meet, right? This is kind of the attitude that we often get, and it's a lot of biases right there. And then another bias that comes in, and again, just to set the foundation, the reality check, we often speak a very different language. So I don't know if you can see it because of the table here, but the point is, when you walk in a business room, you will see and hear things like, let's conquer the market, let's capture the mind share, let's target customers, destroy the competition, let's fight for the market share, let's convert and follow up people. I mean, why would you convert a person? Just let them be for a moment, right? Employing a sales force, headhunters, battles, eyeballs, eyeballs. Disgusting, horrible, right? And then get people hooked as if it was fish, right? And increase lifetime value. All right, excellent. Increase lifetime value. Like every time I think about increasing lifetime value, I think about a wonderful, nice person, good human being, kind human being that sits there doing their thing, and then there is us coming in and trying to pull as much blood as we can from that person during their lifetime. Well, when I walk in a big room, that business room, I can't speak like this, that's not me. But when we walk in this room often, we're speaking this language, right? Let's reduce friction, right? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Friction? This is all friction. Destroying, capturing, conquering, fighting. There is no reducing friction. Improve consistency, empowering users, enabling people, helping people, and also customer service. Service? There is no service here. We're fighting, we're destroying, we're conquering. So there is a very big misalignment between how we speak and how business speaks. So when I look in this room, I can't speak like this, but I won't be speaking like this either, because I will not be understood. What I do is I try to speak through this language of design metrics and UX KPIs. Basically by saying, well, let's try to refine and regroup this filter so we can improve the conversion by 0.4% or 0.6%, or getting to success rate that is going to be higher because we regrouped and refined filters. And that brings me again to this notion of design metrics and design KPIs. And when we look at them, I think, there is very often a lot of, again, sort of a misconception. Can you even measure design? Can you even measure UX? Isn't it like a, this magical pixie dust out there? Of course we can measure. And I think that we should be measuring as well. We just need to tap into what businesses measure most of the time. Now, this is an overall overview of what businesses typically measure, right? You will find it most of the time. Please raise your hand if your company, or you know that your company measures NPS, Net Promoter Score. That's a lot of people in the room. I'm yet to work in a company that doesn't measure NPS. NPS is everywhere. Personally, I genuinely dislike NPS, and I will dive into it in a moment, right? But we can tap into it because businesses measure it anyway. On the other hand, we also have a lot of those acronyms. It seems like in the business world, we really like, these abbreviations. MAU, NPS, RPU, CLCV, and so on, all of those things. And they're not really complicated. I mean, honestly, if you sit down for like 1 hour or 2 and you go through them, it will make perfect sense. Again, how much money do we earn every month? How much money do we earn every year? What is the, again, the lifetime value, right? If a customer is staying for X years, how much money do we actually get from them? That gives us an insight how much revenue and new acquisition of a customer brings, right? And it also has this, again, this kind of cost per acquisition and a few things like that. A bit businessy, but not very difficult. If you ever passed by security in the airport, where after security you had to check, these free smileys, how was your experience? This is your customer satisfaction score right there. Nothing difficult over there. But then there are also these things, right? Things, maybe I should move it even further so everybody can see it, right? So we have behavioral metrics and we have diagnostic metrics. Diagnostics are obviously important. We have things like system uptime, feature utilization, ticket resolution time, and security incident rate. This is often something that businesses measure. Objectively important. I mean, the better we are getting there, the better the business will go and the UX as well. Because in many ways, this is also part of user experience. Performance is a part of user experience, accessibility is a part of user experience, security is a part of user experience. And then we have this. And surprisingly for me, most businesses are incredibly obsessed with this part. And I still try to figure out why. Well, this is coming from analytics, Google Analytics and something like that. And they often will be speaking about, of course, CTRs. And of course, bounce rates, session duration, traffic growth, and drop-off rate. But they are not representing success. When I look at the session duration, what does it mean if you have a session duration of 2 minutes 47? It doesn't mean anything. So what does it mean that we increase session duration? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Maybe people cannot find what they're looking for, that they waste more time on the page, right? Maybe that's bad that we increase the session duration. If you have a short session duration, maybe that's a great thing, because somebody finds what they're looking for faster, or can do what they need to do faster, right? The same goes for things like traffic growth. It's easy to increase traffic. We don't care about traffic in general. We care about the quality of traffic. You put in a lot of advertising and you'll get traffic in. But you don't want random traffic. You want quality traffic that converts, right? So if you just see, okay, we increased traffic by 2%, yeah, but what kind of people do we attract as a result? Is it people who actually want to contribute, right? And then you also have things, again, like a drop-off rate and click-through rate, which are maybe a bit more objectively important, right? And again, this is what businesses measure, but we need to get to our side, right? And also, just one note on this. Sometimes it's metrics, but sometimes it's a model. Because very often you will see these flywheels, business models represented as flywheels. This is what every business tries to achieve in some way or the other, creating this sort of almost infinite loop, where as you keep going in the organization, you just need to focus on one, maybe two different metrics, which are not like, you know, drop-off rate or abandonment or session duration, that are very much at the heart of the organization. So with LinkedIn, for example, the main goal that they focus on, attract more users and more data. This is why, by the way, also by default now, starting I think from a few days ago, now LinkedIn gathers and evaluates and uses your data on LinkedIn for the AI. So please opt out. It's difficult, but if you search for how to opt out, please do. They really care about that. This is kind of the center of everything. If they do that, more people join, it becomes more valuable. So more people join, so it becomes more valuable. And on the other hand, you also can do better job matches, better content, better recommendations, stuff like that, right? So you can tap into this. You can check what business actually cares about and try to tap into it. So, okay, that's great, but what does it mean for us? What does it mean for us as designers? Well, as designers, we cannot measure, we can also measure something else. This is what designers measure. This is kind of my toolbox, if you like. Also behavioral, attitudinal, custom metrics, and diagnostic metrics. Sometimes, again, this is mostly tapping into what businesses measure anyway, right? If you work on something like, I don't know, maybe a manufacturer of washing machines, and you have maybe 100 washing machines that you're selling, you want people to make a decision faster. So you have something like time to decision. People can make a decision on a detail page or a landing page, a listing page, sorry, to kind of see whether people actually understand what we're presenting to them, right? Some businesses also care about North Star metric, that one thing that I showed with LinkedIn use case, right? And a few other things, service desk inquiries and stuff like that. But personally, if I have a choice, I always start with these two. What we always do is very, very simple. I dropped in any environment, healthcare, insurance, whatever, any kind of domain, doesn't matter. Recently, with the last 2.5 years, European Parliament, right? And we try to identify 12 tasks, 12 representative tasks that the user of this environment must excel at. Basically, it's kind of jobs to be done, but really key, most important things that our task, our product is actually serving. 12 of them. And they are, well, should be representative. Ideally, selected and curated by users, and most importantly, approved by stakeholders, and then tested by researchers, right? So what we do is 12 tasks, then we bring 15 to 18 people to run those tasks, to try to complete those tasks, and we see how successful they are. And we see how much time they need to be successful. And you get a very objective, as long as you select the people correctly, right? Get a very objective notion and measure about your success rate. This is very, very, very impactful and actually not expensive at all. It can be done relatively quickly. Task success rate, time on task, very, very important. But sometimes you end up in a different situation where you might have something like a form and you care about accuracy. So you look into error rates, how often they occur. And once they do occur, you look into error recovery rate, how quickly do people recover from them, right? And then also you might be working on something very different, like search. So if you're spending most of your life and time in search, then you can say, well, how do we measure the quality of our search experience? Easy peasy. You look at top 100 search queries that came to you, to your product last year. Then you look at the top 3, top 5 results that actually are appearing today in your search engine. And then you go to different units that are responsible for the different things that people are typing in when they're searching. And you ask, for that query, what should be there actually? Give me like top 3, 4, 5 maybe results that should be appearing once people are actually searching for those things. And so you have what is here, you see you have what should be there, you do the match, the mapping, and out of that you get your score. Very often, I really want to emphasize it, very often we don't spend enough attention on search, which is really, really significant and important. And one of the first things that I always try to suggest is hire a search UX designer, or UX designer specialized in search. You know, knowing a little bit about information architecture, metadata, and stuff like that. That is very, very impactful. Nobody owns and measures the quality of search, but this is really, really significant in most companies. And then you also have things like time to first success. This is also very important. This is something that we established actually just a year ago or so, that we use all the time now. If you have a user that is coming into your product, and they start with a free trial, or maybe free reverse trial, doesn't matter, right? So they start in, we want to bring them to their first success fast, right? That's very important. They will not they will not move to the premium tier unless they got to the first success quickly. And I'm not talking about, oh, they clicked on the button and the model showed up. No, they need to get some sort of a relevant success for them. If you have like a financial broker application or something like that, you know, you can show the entire market with all the filters and everything, but it's not really relevant for them. When they walk in that product, they need to get something like their portfolio set up or something similar, something that would be relevant for them. And this is something that we measure. How quickly do people get there, right? Especially when you have a subscription, very important. And then also, again, the accuracy of data that you get as well. So you can see quite a few things very distinct, and usually I would pick not more than 3 or 4 of those metrics to track, right? This requires a bit more time because you need to bring people in, right? Here, I mean, as well, but you can also maybe automate some of those things, like, for example, over here, right? But this would always be kind of my main toolbox. And of course, we also have diagnostic metrics that are kind of supporting you. Like, you know, if you're using Hotjar, you can see how far people click and scroll and stuff like that. But also, you can run some surveys to get a sentiment, user sentiment. One other thing that I tend to rely on is SUS. Anybody knows of system usability scale? My kind of people, we need to build a little guild as well. I will show it in a moment. There are many variants of that, right? But SUS is great, and there are a few others. The same thing that we saw before, customer satisfaction score, CSAT, is there too, right? But then also frustration score. That's again something that I will show you in a moment, which we established to make sure that people can proceed and do what they need to do despite the frustration that they're happening there. If they're frustrated, they don't buy, and if they're frustrated, they cannot complete the tasks. Maybe just one note on SUS, because I think it's important. It's a survey. We bring people in, 12 tasks, they complete this task, 15 to 18 people. Every person needs around 1 hour. And then after that, we give them this survey, right? SUS, which contains 10 statements that you can strongly disagree or agree with. For example, one statement is, the first statement is, I think I would like to use this website frequently. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. I found the website unnecessarily complex. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. I thought it was easy to use. The same story, and I thought there was too much inconsistency on the site. The same story. Positive, negative, negative, and it keeps going. These are all the questions listed, and people have a choice between strongly disagree, strongly agree. Right? If you type in SUS, you will find a lot of information about it. It's very old, from 1993, I believe, but also very reliable, statistically significant. Now, the average score is 68. So on average, you will find that if you are average, then it will be 68. Most organizations are somewhere here. They just don't know it yet, right? Most organizations are somewhere over here. It's only a few companies that are going all the way beyond 90. If you are above 80, that's already great. But beyond 90 is excellent. And then, of course, if you're here, then you have some problems to solve, right? And I think it's really interesting that if you actually look at it, you know, and look at different metrics, and it's really simple to run. It's, there's nothing magical there. What you will find is that there is a very strong correlation between NPS, I'm sorry, I hate NPS, between NPS and SUS. In other words, if you do the good work and you improve usability and UX in general, this score will go up, right? Because people will be able to do what they need to do faster. This will go up. But with it, automatically, almost automatically, also this will go up, right? So if some business measured that they are somewhere over here in terms of NPS score, right? And you move here, you will probably, with a high probability, see an improvement over here as well. And you can tap into it, because you can say that you've done your work, and as a result of that, this has increased, right? And this is the business language that they understand. Although, again, I really hate NPS. I really do. And just to make it very, very clear what we're talking about here, NPS, I hate it so much. I hate you. NPS is basically this. Every morning starts with an NPS survey, right? How likely are you to recommend a product to a colleague or a friend on a scale from 0 to 10, right? 0 being not likely, 10 being very likely. And you break it down into these 3 groups, right? Detractors, passives, promoters, depending on how people reply. These people, answering 0 to 6, are people who hate you. These people, from 9 to 10, are people who actually like you for whatever reason, right? And these people couldn't care less, right? And so the NPS score is calculated very simply by detracting the percentage of detractors, 0 to 6, from the percentage of promoters, and you get your score, right? Which also means that if you happen to be here, right, everybody hates you, right? Everybody hates you. What a wonderful experience that is, right? You get 0% of people promoting you, 100% of people disliking you, you get minus 100. Of course, if you get here, it's still the same. You did all this incredible work to move the needle, but nothing has changed. That's not fair. And then if you just move to 7, all of a sudden it becomes 0. And then if you just move a little bit more and more people actually like you, well, they are more, they're passives, but they do like you, it's still 0. That's not fair. The average is different, but the NPS is 0. And if you once move to 9, you get plus 100. It's just weird. It's very fragile. It's not reliable. You need a lot of people to make it reliable. Why am I focusing on it so much? It's not really a UX metric anyway. Businesses care about it, so when somebody comes to you and tells you, well, you told us that you've been doing all this work and the NPS should be increasing, right? But it didn't. You need to be able to argue against that. I was in this position multiple times, and I wish I'd learned these 2 facts. First of all, 52% of people who actively discouraged others from using a brand had also actively recommended it for a particular attribute. People can't stand some brands, but use them due to their low prices. The best example of that is Ryanair. People love to hate Ryanair, but they still fly Ryanair, right? And, that's also funny, what people do, what people say, what people think and feel are often very different things. So what happens is, only 55% of people who say that they recommend you to someone actually recommended you to someone, right? 55% of promoters, mostly 9 and 10s only, actually do recommend the product. So for NPS to be statistically significant, you need around 1,000, 1,300 people. And if you send an NPS survey to 300 people, you get very different results because it's very fragile. So if somebody comes to you and tells you, well, we ran a new NPS survey, right, and it's worse, well, you need to compare apples to apples. How many people did you have? And things like that. This is a conversation that you need to initiate there. Make sense, everyone, so far? Well, I could go like this forever. All right, so what else then? Well, I'm glad that you asked, because there are also other metrics. And just to finish the thought here, NPS is, whatever. SUS is great, but some companies started now using SuperQ. SuperQ is an 8-items questionnaire, which basically covers 4 groups: usability, trust, appearance, loyalty. It's also a self-reporting survey, like this, right? Usability, trust, incredibility, appearance, and loyalty. And what you see here, number 8, how likely are you to recommend a website to a friend or colleague? This is NPS right here. And the way it's calculated is very simple, as an average. And out of that, you get a score, like this. And this represents a score that your user experience is like, right? SuperQ as a percentile score or as a raw score. So your goal is to keep improving it as you keep improving your design, right? And in fact, you can even go simpler than that, because you might have like a little maybe feedback survey prompt that appears after somebody has completed the process. And for that, you can use the third thing, which is also very helpful, UX slide. It's 2 questions. Also correlates with SUS, also correlates with NPS as well. And it's literally just 2 statements on this 5-point, 7-point scale, right? First, the system's capabilities meet my requirements. Agree on the scale from 1 to 5 or 1 to 7. This system is easy to use. Agree on the scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 7, right? That's how it looks like. So what do we do with it then? This is what I would encourage you to do. Establish a UX scorecard, as simple as this. This is all you need to get started with measuring UX, right? This is all you need. It's very simple Excel spreadsheet or whatever you have. Here, you have your 12 tasks. You measure how successful people are with them, right? You bring people in, 15 to 18 people. You don't need much more than that. And you get this across the most important journeys that your users will take. Here, how easy is it to use, right? You ask a question maybe in a little prompt after they completed the task, and you see how you're doing there, right? And then these 2 questions, and again, one of them might be not needed, depends on where you use it, right? These 2 questions, again, are UX Lite. Over here, you get your average as well. And because there is a strong correlation, you can convert UX Lite into SUS value, so you get your scorecard. Every team should have one. And we often kind of define 2 types of metrics, especially for this part. On the one hand, you might be working on filters over here, or search. You want to improve that. So you're going to define maybe 10 to 12 tasks that represent exactly what you're working on, to measure how better they're getting over time or not. But at the same time, you also need to look at the global KPIs for your entire design effort. So maybe somebody comes in, they go through onboarding, then they start importing things, then they start doing something in your interface, and then they maybe export or send it someone. You want to cover that journey as well. Local calls, so local KPIs, and also global KPIs. And usually each of the teams will have this, and also all teams will have one shared document like this, which covers global level. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm talking about? Right? So this is kind of where we are there, and this is really easy to do. I mean, there is no magic here. It's really, really simple to do. Just a few more minutes, I promise, right? And I think that to really visualize, to bring it all together, right? Because it seems still very dry. I want to show you the actual project and what we actually ended up doing with it, so you kind of get a sense about what it's like. Please don't run away. It will look scary at first, but I'll run you through it. So this is a design KPI tree, okay? This tree represents design intent for the entire organization. Not for one specific small team of 3 or 4 people, the entire organization. So it always starts with the business goal. Imagine, again, you're working for a big manufacturer of washing machines. You have 100 washing machines that you want to sell. And the main goal that the business has right now for this quarter is to drive more people to buy. Not surprising. They want to reduce time to purchase, and they want more people to buy, which will have a tremendous impact on their business KPI, which is revenue. Not surprising. So you can sit down and think, okay, how do I do that as a designer? I mean, okay, well, first, probably, let's take a look at what we know, right? Looking into research. So let's go to our researchers, or any insights that we have, and let's see what we know that might relate to that. For example, oh, that's interesting. 17% of users complained about filtering experience being too slow. Okay, that's a lot of people. Maybe we can use that. The user sessions are long, 2.47 minutes, but they barely help people find the top candidate. That's what people complain about. Maybe it's an assumption that we need to verify, right? But maybe it's also coming from research. Usability studies show that users don't understand our recently launched products. Maybe we can tap into that, right? Oh, 26% of users abandon landing pages within the first 30 seconds. That's disastrous. That's alarming. We should really work on that. So these purple boxes represent what we know. This could be known user needs, could be stuff from user research, could be assumptions, although I try to avoid assumptions as much as I can, right? But these are the things that are the origin of the problem space, right? That I showed in the very beginning, the problem space. Moving from problem space into solution space is easy for us. We know how to do this. Not a problem. So when we look at something like maybe here, where was it? here, right? Well, people complain about filtering experience too slow. We get together as designers, we come up with ideas. We can do that. Maybe we should display filters above search results immediately instead of a filter button. Maybe it will be actually faster. Or we maybe could load new items upon manual apply and not automatically, so it's not annoying every time a person selects a filter. Things like that, right? But then, these yellow boxes, again, represent design ideas. Like, this is problem space, this is solution space, right? These are metrics. We imagine the world in which this already exists. If we strongly believe as designers that these ideas are the right ones, then something must change in the product. Something must change in the user behavior. We don't just do things out of thin air, right? We really believe that this is going to help, so we need to be able to measure it. How do we measure it? Well, maybe we should track the average time that people need to set up 5 most frequently used filters successfully in the first session. Maybe something else. Maybe something different, just to see the immediate impact of that. This is my local KPI that I was speaking about, right? You work on filters, you measure the impact of your work on filters. Okay? But, you know, this again, these blue boxes represent, again, what we will measure to assess how successful our design initiatives are. Must be a number and time-bound. Anybody heard of SMART goals? Right? Every business cares about SMART goals, so I just tap into it, because it must be a number, time-bound, actionable, and all of that, right? It's just easier to argue about that. These are my design metrics. Still with me, everyone? Right? I have like 4 minutes, I'm told, here. Excellent. But, you know, if you actually look at this here, where was I? Where was I? Here. Here we go. Right? It's kind of weird. You cannot report to your senior management, well, we're just going to measure the average time to set up 5 most frequently used filters successfully in the first session. This will not look nice on a business dashboard somewhere, right? So we rephrase it, and we say, let's call it filtering speed. And every month, we're going to report to senior management, our filtering speed has improved, has decreased. Right? On our local level, we can do that, right? And then I go back up. Because again, remember, we need to reach that goal. We need to connect that business objective with design initiatives that we have. And so if we want to translate and create this connection, what we try to do here is to try to understand what this means. And that's, again, an active act of translation from a business language to a design language. What does it mean for me as a designer? What the hell does it mean? So I go in and I sit down and I try to understand what this means. So if we want to reduce time to purchase, the way I see it, the path there, the strategy to get there, is that customers should faster recognize the value of our products and be able to make best fit choices. I mean, that's how I understood it. I have a call or just a meeting with a stakeholder and ask them, does it make sense? And if they give me a green light, then I know what to do. Because ultimately that means for people to buy faster, they need to be able to make a decision faster. It might not be the only way. It might be that the price is too high. It might be that the product is too bad or anything like that. But I need to see where I can fit in this space. And then I go further down. How can I help a person to make a final decision, which has an impact on their lifetime value, right, again? Well, if I want to reduce the time to final decision, then people need to be able to make that decision first. If they have choice paralysis, they're not buying. So we need to guarantee that they can make a decision to buy or not to buy that product with a high success rate, right? So maybe we should run a usability session to understand why and when users fail at decision making. Also, people don't buy when they're frustrated, right? When they're slowed down, when there are empty results pages or bounce rates on entry pages or anything like that, where they cannot recover from errors and filters and stuff like that, right? This is all issues which we need to address. Also accessibility and usability, right? And then ultimately, we need to reduce the time to top candidate. Because for people to make a final decision to buy or not to buy, for washing machines, it's not like you buy 5 washing machines and send 4 back. That's not how it works. You buy 1 washing machine. So we need to reduce time to top candidate. And that means improving everything that we can do to bring people to that candidate. Filters, guides, configurator, whatnot. It might be that somebody will take a different path, right? It might be that they will be needing to see a few relevant candidates first. So we need to improve that. And also, again, this is kind of like a business analytics, or business BA, I guess, meeting design. And oh my God, I know I'm spending too much time on this, but This is so powerful. I mean, you come with this to your meeting with your PM or whoever is in a business position, they will be so impressed. Because it's not just designing pixels now, you're actually planning that design intention before you design a single pixel on the screen. And of course, not all of this is going to make it. Some of those things will probably be blocked, or we can't do that, and so on and so forth. And when it comes to these metrics, you want to check with your engineers if you can actually implement them in the first place. Can you measure it? What can we measure here? What do we measure here? But once you do, this will be a world of a difference. All right. Whew. That's been a journey, right? So what do we do with it? Well, first of all, it's really not hard. Right, there are a couple of established ways to track it. The best ones is task success rate and also time on task. If you don't have access to users, please come to me. I'll be in the back because I have like 55, I think, slides on what to do in case you don't have access to users. If you work in B2B and enterprise and corporate world and so on, so I can share some bits on that. I'm just running a bit of behind schedule here, right? But this is really easy to do. You establish your scorecard locally and globally, and you'll be in a much better place. And then if you also visualize it with this design KPI tree, it will be a very, very different place altogether. So I also put together a lot of stuff in this video course on smart interface design patterns. If you want to dive in, like there are a lot of stuff on data tables, data grids, and so on. And I also recorded a new video course on how to measure design and UX impact. Let me just bring it back here. Right? Design and UX impact, so it's coming in 2 weeks or so, so please pay attention to that. Maybe you'll be interested in that too. And I want to leave you with just one short video, literally the story of my life. And I think it's the story of all our lives. It's a very sad story because the world is very unsatisfying most of the time. Well, sometimes things just don't launch, do they? Thanks, Parallel Studio, for the wonderful video. Beyond that, I have cats and more cats. And Malin, thank you so much for being here. Hope it was useful. If anything, I'll be out there somewhere asking any question or answering all the questions that you have. Thank you so much for being here.